In more ways than one, we have witnessed the end of an era for Star Wars. The final season of Andor has released in its entirety, completing the journey of Cassian Andor in the Rogue One side of the Star Wars universe, at least as far as we know. But on an even larger scale, we are witnessing the end of what I like to call Phase 2 of Disney's Star Wars era, an era characterized by the studio struggling to get a movie script that they were happy with, and instead distracting fans with consistently mediocre Disney Plus shows that consistently fell in popularity and relevance. I mean, things started really strong with a global phenomenon that is The Mandalorian. But after that, it became obvious to the general public that these shows were nothing more than gimmicks hoping to satisfy audiences by waving cameos and lightsabers in people's faces and pretending they were stories with substance. I mean, even The Mandalorian fell victim to this in its third season. So to a lot of people, the one saving grace of the modern era of Star Wars has been Andor? A show with no Jedi, no Skywalkers, no lightsabers, no major cameos every other episode, and that's the thing fans still have faith in? Yeah, it's really shocking how far a good story can go, and this is a show that generated buzz largely off of being good. I was one of the few people that was actually really excited for the Cassian Andor show. Yeah, I admit I was scratching my head when the show was announced, with my major frustration being the fact that Cassian Andor starts Rogue One as an unlikable character. But the more I thought about the show and the more I heard about it, the more excited I got. I mean, the show was described as a Star Wars spy thriller, and it was clear that Lucasfilm hadn't been this confident and excited going into a Star Wars show since The Mandalorian. There were so many interesting plot lines to explore, such as the formation of the rebellion as well as the darker side of it. And honestly, I was just excited to see more of the Rogue One side of the Star Wars universe and delve deeper into these great characters, something I didn't think we'd ever see again after the entire cast of characters was killed off in the 2016 film. That's actually one of the benefits of Disney Plus for Star Wars. They can tell stories like this that probably wouldn't have worked as feature films. Even with the massive success of Rogue One, doing a movie about one of its characters who literally died in the film and hasn't had a long legacy of stories like Han Solo or Obi-Wan would be an odd choice. But with a series, you're able to experiment with ideas a bit more and build your audience over time with good storytelling. And Andor did that, rising in popularity week by week instead of nosediving after the premiere like most Disney Plus shows. However, even with a show as beloved as Andor, there are still people who have their issues with it, which is totally fair, by the way. If this show is lacking what you really want from a Star Wars story, that is completely valid, and you aren't any less intelligent for not liking the show. There's of course the middle-aged man-children who haven't gone outside and touched grass for a long time, who make a career off of hating on Star Wars, and I gotta say, the criticisms they have for the show are some of the most odd criticisms I've ever heard regarding a piece of media. But that side of the community doesn't really represent the majority of normal people, so those aren't the criticisms I'm focusing on here. The most prevalent criticism I've heard of Andor is that it doesn't really feel like Star Wars. That this show goes out of its way to detach itself from Star Wars as much as it can for the sake of grounding it in realism. Personally, I disagree, as Andor feels very much like Star Wars to me, just a darker, more mature side of Star Wars that focuses on the people of the Star Wars galaxy that gather together to form the rebellion. But for the people that disagree with this, a point is often brought up that Tony Gilroy himself isn't a Star Wars fan, which is absolutely a misconception because what Tony Gilroy really said is that he's not a fan of the franchise, as in he's not a die-hard worshiper of it. Of course, Tony Gilroy likes Star Wars. He wouldn't be devoting this much time and effort into the series if he didn't. And yeah, I'm sure not everyone would be crazy with that either, but in a number of ways, Tony Gilroy being a casual Star Wars fan is actually a really good thing. So many of the writers of the Star Wars shows seem so preoccupied into writing what they think as a fan would be cool to see and what they think Star Wars fans want to see. Again, it's the jiggling keys method that for the most part got old pretty quickly. But with a writer like Tony Gilroy, you know he's going to put the story first. He said in a number of interviews that he saw Andor as a platform to explore these ideas that he's been very passionate about exploring for a long time. And for all the people that think this guy actually hates Star Wars, here's another quote from Tony Gilroy. That's been our attitude all the way through, not to be cynical and to take it more seriously than anybody ever took it. Even while we're changing, some people feel as though we're changing a lot, but even while we're changing the grammar of what you can do, we're trying very rigorously to be more serious about this shit than anybody has ever seen. And yet Andor is still filled with fan service. It's just that with the exception of some major Rogue One characters popping up in Season 2, the fan service is a little more subtle. Just look at Luthen Rail's shop on Coruscant, which is filled to the brim with all of these Star Wars Easter eggs, prompting tons of videos breaking all of that down. I mean, this show covers the biggest events leading to the formation of the rebellion, like the Gorman massacre finally being shown, Mon Mothma's speech to the Senate denouncing Palpatine, and the origins of the Yavin 4 rebel base from A New Hope, just to name a few. The show expands on several well-known aspects of the Star Wars universe, bringing us back to several iconic locations like, as I mentioned, Coruscant and Yavin, as well as Dakar, which as it turns out before acting as the Resistance base, it was a base for Saw Gerrera's partisans. Yeah, this show also explores the different factions of the rebellion and the constant tension between them as they slowly start to come together throughout the series. And on the Empire side of things, we get easily our best look so far into the ISB and eventually how the information on the Death Star got out. As Andor is at the end of the day a Rogue One prequel, its primary goal is to make that film better. We really get to see how much Cassian gave up for the rebellion. We see how his hatred for the Empire started at a young age. We see him understand that he can't just stand by and try to live in a galaxy under Imperial rule, as he literally gets arrested for being a bystander to a crime with a ridiculous sentence. For a large chunk of Season 2, his faith in the rebellion is tested as he tries to keep his girlfriend Bix safe after the trauma she experienced from the Empire. Especially after the scene with the Force healer, Bix realizes Cassian has a greater purpose in the rebellion that even he doesn't understand yet, and realizes that she cannot be the reason he leaves. So as she says in the show, she chooses the rebellion. She leaves one morning before Cassian wakes up, leaving him feeling incredibly alone. And that's when K2SO steps into the story, really enhancing the audience's perspective on why he matters so much to Cassian. You see, even when there are cameos that make a lot of sense to be in the series anyways, there's a profound story reason why they are present. Diego Luna, Cassian Andor himself, and the executive producer on the show, who helps shape the story based on his own personal experiences, is well documented as being a huge Star Wars fan. And it goes without saying that he's not the only person involved in the show who loves Star Wars. Tony Gilroy is surrounded by tons of passionate fans of the franchise, so while he focuses on writing a great story and doing the necessary research, so much effort is put into not only making this feel like it's undeniably a part of the Star Wars universe with some really fun references for diehard fans, but they also help make the show feel like an absolutely vital piece of storytelling within the franchise. So yeah, it goes without saying that Andor cares about Star Wars, maybe more so than the projects made by some diehard fans of the franchise. And I am really going to miss this side of the Star Wars universe. I mean, for all the ups and downs in Phase 2 of the Disney Star Wars era, they really ended things off with a bang. So what did you think of Andor? Did you love it, or is it not really your cup of tea? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future uploads. And if you haven't learned how to swim yet, you should probably get on that, as you never know when it will come in handy. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.